Coming up, the Warriors lost their second straight, and the Knicks beat the Celtics in a thriller. This is Locked On Now NBA.
The biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
You are listening to Locked On Now NBA, local experts on the biggest stories on the hardwood. I am your host, Kim Becker, and thanks so much for making us your first listen every weekday. Our Locked On NBA hosts are here to help break down everything from Thursday in basketball. Last night, the New Orleans Pelicans knocked off the once red-hot Warriors in our biggest game.
The biggest game.
The New Orleans Pelicans picked up the most surprising win of the night by beating the Warriors and giving Golden State its second straight loss. Brandon Ingram looked back to form in a 32-point night, and Locked On Pelicans tells you how New Orleans snapped its own 3-game losing streak.
It was more difficult than it should have been, but a win is a win for the New Orleans Pelicans as they beat the Golden State Warriors 101-96. I'm Jake Madison, host of Locked On Pelicans and Locked On NBA. No Steph Curry, no Draymond Green, but the Warriors came to play in this one. And after a sluggish first quarter, Brandon Ingram started cooking and showed why his name should be at least in the All-Star conversation. He finished with 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists on the night. Pelicans rookie Herb Jones, who's been an excellent defender all season long, limited the Dubs backcourt and held Jordan Poole to just 3 of 14 shooting. It wasn't a pretty win, but in a weird NBA season, you take whatever it is that you can get. So for more on the Pelicans and where Zion Williamson is right now, make sure to tune into the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
The Memphis Grizzlies got the usual strong scoring output from Ja Morant last night, but it was a team effort that put down the Pistons as 6 players scored in double figures and 14 saw playing time. Locked On Grizzlies breaks down the win even further.
7 straight wins for the Memphis Grizzlies. Sean Coleman here with the Locked On Grizzlies podcast. Listen, a lot of different things have allowed for the Grizzlies to beat better teams than them, or teams that may be more talented than them, over the past few weeks, the Nets, the Suns, and so on. But tonight, the Grizzlies were facing off against the Pistons team that make teams work hard to be able to beat them. But tonight, the Grizzlies simply played to their potential and were able to get a dominant victory, 118-88 victory. And the really encouraging thing was without Desmond Bane, who was out due to quad soreness, more than anything, probably just rest, the Grizzlies were able to get back both DeAnthony Melton and Dillon Brooks, who both looked like their normal selves for long stretches of the game. But the really standout factor was how good of a start the Grizzlies got, especially Zion Williams, who in his 2 games back has looked outstanding. He's looked like a player who's not trying to figure stuff out, a player who has it figured out and is making the most of his skills, a player who is playing much more consistent and with much more confidence to support the Grizzlies' best players. Ja Morant, once again, 22 points, 9 assists, 6 steals. The Grizzlies' starting lineup overall was more than capable of getting a big lead that the rest of the roster was able to keep as the Grizzlies get a 118-88 victory. This is a big victory for the Grizzlies because it allows for them to be in a very good, very confident position before they go for their final West Coast road trip of the year to face the Lakers and the Clippers over the weekend to hopefully strengthen their playoff positioning even more. We'll have this and much more on the post-game edition of the Locked On Grizzlies podcast.
The Pistons just didn't have any offensive rhythm in scoring on Thursday. They scored just 88 points on the Grizzlies, and Locked On Pistons is getting tired of watching after a second straight embarrassing night.
There's a difference between losing and just straight up just getting embarrassed and laughed at, basically. Host of Locked On Pistons podcast, Kuku Hill here. The Pistons lose another one, and they didn't just lose again. This is now the second straight night that they not only got lost and blown out, but they basically got punked, stunted on, laughed at by the opposing team. Last night, we had LaMelo Ball playing street ball against the Pistons, and then we had Kelly Oubre blow a kiss at Kay Cunningham after making a shot. And now we have this. We have the Memphis Grizzlies tweeting at the Pistons, the Detroit little self-protector guy. No. The Pistons are getting stunted on. They're getting laughed at. Everyone on the team played awful tonight. Killian had probably one of his worst games, if not the worst game of his season. Sadiq Bey hit the side of a backboard on a left wing three. I didn't even know that was possible. Cade was getting stunted on by Dylan Brooks. It's just... That's all I got, man.
That's a wrap for us here. Thanks so much for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. For more on the association and your favorite team, make your second listen Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast. I'm Kim Becker, and this has been Locked On Now, Locked On your team every day.